the Uttanasana practice involves a forward bend. And in the forward bend, ideally, we will avoid such a strong position on the spine that, for example, we can see all the spinal processes pushing up and forwards. As we come into the forward bend, ideally, we need the spinal processes to recede as much as possible within the musculature of the back. This is going to be better for the spine in any case. There's no reason to overstretch the spine, the joints of the spine. If we open the ligaments or the tendons that support the spine, so ultimately long-term cause the spine to be too loose and liable to injury. What we're really aiming to stretch and open are the muscles at the backs of the legs. So it's the angle of the pelvis coming forwards that is crucial to opening the muscles in the backs of the legs. It will also release the lower back muscles to the extent that we need to release to come into our forward bend practice. So let's initially begin to consider the angle on the pelvis to facilitate that movement forwards. And we can do that by going in the direction that we don't really need to go in. So tucking the tailbone under and just a little bit, drawing it forwards. And then moving the base of the spine, and the pelvis of course moves with the base of the spine because it's attached to it, but moving the base of the spine backwards. So what we may see is mainly the hips moving first of all forwards, and then the hips moving backwards. But of course the carriage of the hips is carrying the base of the spine, the sacrum and the tailbone. And it will be helpful as we come into the forward bend if, as we practice the alignment at the base of the spine, we retain a consciousness of the alignment through the upper spine. So letting the back of the shoulders and the ribs and the back of the head be tall whilst the base of the spine moves backwards and forwards. And little by little, the idea is to come into a position where the tailbone will be directed towards the heels and the crests of the hip bones forwards. And that's the angle at which we'll aim to try and tip the hips forwards. So the idea as we come into the forward bend is that we support the pelvis sufficiently with lower abdominal strength, a bit of hollowing in the lower abdomen above the pubic bone and out towards the crests of the hip bones, a lift potentially in the muscles directly above the tailbone, so that when the weight of the pelvis is supported away from the thighs, the tops of the thigh bones, the balls of the thigh bones, we'll be able to hinge the pelvis forward, keep the lower abdominal muscles lifted, and coming into this forward bending position, forward flexion, with the spine quite long and supported. We can come through to a position like this with the hands on the thighs to support us, and working here as we breathe in, really reaching or aiming the sitting bones back and behind us as we keep the spine lengthening forwards. We should feel some opening through the backs of the legs here. And then again, just allowing that to relax a little bit with the knees bending, the tailbone reaches back, abdomen stays powerfully lifted, and the backs of the legs open upwards from the heels towards the sitting bones. Or we can take support from a chair or something else that will allow us to be able to be a little bit more relaxed. So just allowing the chair to receive the weight that it's too tiring for the body to hold. Although as much as possible we try to contain the strength that we need for the posture within the body itself. So the practice where we are at present might bring us through to Ardha Uttanasana, so the half Uttanasana, the half extreme care stretch, in which we would have again this lengthened position through the arms, over the shoulder joints, back through the sides of the rib cage, abdominal muscles nice and strong and lifted, and the tailbone opening backwards and the crown of the head lengthening as far forwards in the opposite direction as possible. And the idea is to keep the spine as long as possible and to let the legs gradually open in conjunction with the spine being long. So we could inhale, let the knees soften and really align the angle on the pelvis and the stretch through the spine, and then a powerful lift on the exhalation in the lower abdominal muscles, keeping the feet anchored to the floor and seeing how much it's possible to lengthen upwards from the heels through the backs of the legs to the sitting bones, at the same time as keeping our spine long. And the point at which the spine would round, that's really the point to stop opening the legs, because that's the point at which the sitting bones are travelling in the direction of the back of the knee, and in reality we're stretching our back, overstretching our spine, and the emphasis has moved away from the hamstrings into stretching the lower back and the spine. And after a few breaths here, it will become tiring, and it's time then to walk the feet in towards the chair. Abdominal muscles stay strong, breathing in to roll up through the spine. Or if you held onto your thighs throughout that, just simply rolling up through the spine. That's the half Uttanasana, and up to there, in this practice, anyone with herniated disc or high blood pressure is fine to practice. And you could return again to the Ardha Uttanasana practice, which is a very useful and opening and strengthening practice for the body. Or if you feel ready to come into the full Uttanasana, we're going to have a look at that now. If you have yoga blocks or bricks, these are bricks, or a pile of books is just as good for supporting you in the forward bend if you think that you won't necessarily reach the floor. All the things that we've been working with up to this point, we're going to bring into practice now. Let's just think about the soles of the feet, letting the weight through the feet be nice and even. Weight through the centre of the heel, ball of the foot and pad of the little toe. Thinking again about the angle through the pelvis, just allowing the tailbone to be sinking and the crests of the hips lifted. Considering the strength that we need in the lower abdomen and around the waist and around the rib cage to carry the trunk of the body forwards. Lifting a little through the fronts of the thighs so that we'll be able to let go more through the backs of the thighs. And then again with the knees a little bit bent, keeping the lower abdomen lifted, the navel pulling to the spine, going to allow the pelvis to hinge forward at the hip, keeping as much space and length between the tailbone and the crown as we can, using the abdominal muscles to support us. Adjusting strength in the upper back, also to support us. The shoulder blades need to be wide across the back of the rib cage and the points of the shoulder blades moving in the direction of the sitting bones. Let your rib cage keep gathering in towards your spine at the back, at the sides, and the breastbone and the spine moving towards each other. Strength also at the front. Little by little, the movement allows the hips to hinge at the pelvis, the spine essentially to travel forwards and downwards. So we can be coming through with a lot more bend at the knees than that, just as we practiced it in the half position, as we move further downwards, as we breathe in, letting the knees soften. Let the insides of the thighs keep lengthening forwards towards your knees from the insides of the hip joints. So the hip joints still stay mobile. And then again, you're lifting the sitting bones upwards, lengthening from between the heels towards the sitting bones and keeping the spine moving forwards. There are lots of different ways to approach the practice as we come to this more advanced position. We can still be holding bricks or blocks, or if we become more flexible, we let them go a little bit lower. You might consider supporting the head on a brick or a block. That's sometimes quite relaxing and allows the body to let go a little bit more as you take weight out of the practice. what will additionally help with that, as I turn around to show you, is if the shoulder blades are bunched up towards the shoulders and towards the head. This is not helpful for opening. Keeping the shoulder blades wide and moving up the back, keeping the rib cage broad and wide and the pelvis broad and wide, simply facilitates the passage of the spine through the rest of the bone structure of the body and allows you to lengthen in easily a lot more than otherwise. The practice can also come from the feet, allowing the body to soften from the feet, just bringing the awareness into the feet, relaxing the feet, lengthening the toes away from the rest of the sole of the foot, just gradually releasing upwards towards the sitting bones. Navel pulling to the spine on the exhalations and the spine releasing forwards and downwards. And the breath here as well can work really wide, the way we practiced earlier, broadening the breath out across the collarbones into the shoulder joints, back towards the shoulder blades, wide into the mid-rib cage, back into the floating ribs, and as you exhale, breathing out from the top of the breath. And that wide breath is really effective for opening space. Even though it opens the upper back more, it helps the rest of the body to release. And then eventually it's time to come out of Uttanasana, and I would recommend allowing your knees to bend, nice deep lift in the abdominal muscles. Quickly allow the weight of the arms to drop back towards the sides of the body. Bring the tailbone above the heels so the sitting bones sink downwards and begin to pull forwards. And then rebuilding your spine segment by segment, let the weight of each vertebra build on the one below, keeping the mind in your spine, just tracking right through to the crown of the head, and at the top of the movement, allowing the arms to relax. And that was Uttanasana, one of the cornerstone postures of the yoga practice. Notably, it's not called hamstring stretch in the yoga term, and it really is about the whole of the body, keeping the feet soft and grounded, experiencing the back of the body opening from the soles of the feet, through the backs of the legs, across the back of the hips, through the back and into the crown of the head. All of that region is the back of the body. It's very releasing. It tends to bring the mind into the back of the body. We always tend to be so forwards in our bodies, at the front of our bodies, and not so connected with the back of the body. But when in difficult situations, either physically or mentally or emotionally, we're able to just simply allow our brain to drop back into the depth of our body, we'll often find resources that we didn't know were there. Resources that are buried in our consciousness but which are not immediately to hand. Uttanasana, although all the forward bends tend to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, the nervous system that relaxes us, after the Uttanasana I think there is quite a release of energy through the body. The energy that yoga works with is prana, the life energy. And the prana is divided into different strains of life energy called vayu. And the one that Uttanasana tends to stimulate more is the udana vayu, and that's the upward energy stream or quality of energy. And I think there is a little bit of an uplift actually after Uttanasana, although in many ways it feels like a downwards moving posture, but actually the energy it releases is more of an upwards energy. We should counterpose to release the body after the practice, and what might be a nice counterpose is Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana, just allowing the weight of the hips to come onto the mat and allowing the spine to lengthen it towards the floor. You might find it helpful to have support to the outside of the hip joints, again blankets or cushions or pillows would do that as well as yoga bricks, or you might not have support to the outsides of the hip joints. And again, if there's a tendency to arch in the neck, just pop something in underneath the back of the head so that the back of the neck can stay long and released. And here at the end of our Uttanasana practice, simply allowing the body to let go, allowing the weight of the body to be received by the support that the earth beneath offers it. Feeling the points of contact that the body has with the mat or the earth beneath it. And with the exhalations, just allowing the connection between the body and the earth to intensify through each and every point of contact. Feeling how it may be possible to give the weight of the body away to the support beneath. As the body relaxes and softens, muscular effort, muscular tension drains away. You may feel the effects of the practice really absorbed through the body. As the body has grown in heaviness, seeing if it's possible to begin to as well connect with any lightness that there may be within the body at present. The lightness of the movement of the breath coming in and coming out. The chest gently rising with the inhalation. The space that there is within the body here at present. Any lightness in the spaciousness that lingers behind the yoga practice. Spending a moment to allow the mind to connect with the entire, the length and breadth and depth of space that is the physical body. And in this moment, owning and acknowledging any peace that there may be, any sense of oneness or union that there may be anywhere through the body, through the mind, through the being. And gradually bringing a little bit of movement back into the toes and into the fingers, bringing a little bit of movement back into the feet and into the hands. If the legs are still in the butterfly position, allowing the legs to come back into alignment with the hip joints. And we let the legs lengthen right away from us, stretching down into the legs, stretching up back into the arms, just checking in with the muscles around the spine, feeling them engage, feeling all through the back muscles, into the arms, into the legs, awakening, letting the sense of sight move outwards again, sense of hearing move out into the wider distance again, just knowing the sensations over the surface of the body, the boundaries of the physical body, so that we're well prepared for moving out and about again into the physical world that surrounds us. And we'll hug the legs in towards the front of the body and circling the hips on the mat 2 or 3 times one direction, 2 or 3 times in the opposite direction, releasing the back. And then, as you're ready, rolling over, coming onto one side and resting on the side for a moment. And then away from the side, just rolling up through the spine, back towards a seated position. Om Shanti Namaste. Well done, and thank you for watching. See you again next time on the second day of the 30-day Yoga Asana Challenge. Bye for now.